because, okay, pjnet.tv, 9:31. Okay, folks, we are ready. Well, actually, we're not, but we're going anyway. All right, our bumper's running, we're streaming, and Jake McCandless is standing by. And our chat room's waiting, so let's count it down. Studio 13, starting now. Okay, yes, we're starting. I say we're ready, but, you know, when you do things live, there's a certain dynamic and excitement, you know. If things happen, it just becomes part of the program, and I like it that way. Very, very, very few of our programs are recorded, although we were at some risk last time that Jake McCandless was going to be here because of what was that excuse you offered again? Why you weren't here?
I've given you so many excuses. I don't even remember. No, it's the height of 8U softball right now. So
8U.
Yeah, so I'm assistant coach. I'm in charge of chin straps, make sure chin straps are on, and dugout control. So I'm the bottom end, but somebody's got to do it, you know.
Dugout control, is that done with a shovel?
So my wife's a school teacher, and I was complaining about how crazy it was, you know, make sure they get the bat in order and all this stuff, and she tells me, Jake, you're just being a wimp. You just can't do it. So I was gone 1 week. She does it for me, and we get an out because we batted out of order. So I haven't let her live that one down. Hopefully she's not listening, so I won't get in trouble. But
well, I'd seen something about your wife, and I was checking just as before we got on the air. I've learned this, and Jake, I think you're old enough to know this, and being in ministry and everything, but never, ever, ever ask anything about a female that's in the hospital or undergoing treatment of what just that is so off limits,
No, so I learned the hard way. So my very first full-time ministry position, a youth pastor, and I mean this is first week on the job. The pastor asked me to go be with a church member as they were having a procedure. All the info I got, I don't even know the church member. I've just been there a week. And it happened to be a very sensitive female procedure, and I just bebop up there in the middle of it. Yeah. So, and I've been in several awkward one of those as a pastor. So,
yeah.
No, I totally get where you're going.
Yeah, and never ask about a pregnancy unless you are absolutely, positively, no doubt about it, certain that they are pregnant.
Yes, absolutely. No, that's not it. No, my wife she's battled back issues since she was 10. She had a disc rupture when she was 10, so she's fought a big battle with that, and just became immobile this weekend, and she got an injection today, so hopefully just going to get her back on track, but for a bit. So she's a trooper now. She's tough.
Well, I tell you, if she's got back issues between the weight you've lost and the weight she's lost, being lean's a good thing for your back.
It's helped. I think that's some of her frustration. She's like, I'm doing all that I'm supposed to do, and so, but it's things happen. She is a elementary school teacher, so in a alternative learning environment, and so she deals very physically, and they're trained in the arts of restraint and those different things. So it's been hard on her, doing that. So, but yeah, so everybody could pray for Amanda as she's recovering, but hopefully she's going to get back on track next couple of days.
That sounds. I'm glad it was. Well, you just never know. I figured it was safe because she put something, or you did, on Facebook, but I've just learned to check first,
Well, I left her back there a few minutes, in the room drugged, and next thing I know, she's posting on Facebook, so I had to get her phone away from her.
Yeah, was she using your account?
No, it was hers, thank goodness, but if okay. Who knows what would happen if I hadn't got it away.
Yeah, you never know. I found it, interesting, but I'm rejoicing. We've got Jesus and his white horse portrayed here at Studio 13. And that's not a new book, but Easter, I guess, gave it some levity. Because it's number one. Number one. Or was for a while.
Yeah, I mean,
for a fleeting moment anyway.
Yeah, well, no, yeah, it had a moment. You got to celebrate when it does. No, I mean, just incredible. It's been incredible. That story. It's really wild how kids latch onto it. It's been very cool. But yeah, so it's really confusing because it should be the 2 years old now, but it was due out April in 2020. So what happened in April 2020,
right?
And so then it kind of trickled out, and then was come out in August, and then it was just a mess. So I'm not even sure how long it's been out, but it has been out for a little bit, and so that was awesome to get that bump again with that.
Well,
and I got sketches today for the follow-up book, children's book, and so real excited see that come across the email today, and so excited to be beginning to share about that.
Well, you should send those to us so your publisher will get angry.
Well, no, it's needing a publisher. So because we're dealing with subjects that publishers are freaked out about.
Really?
So imagine that. And so we are, I'm responsible for getting the art done and getting that taken care of, and then we're taking it to publishers. So any publishers listening, Jesus and the White Horse has done really well. Been printed 3 times and third printing in a year and a half. So and number 1 again. So yes, give us a shout.
Well, now you have an announcement pending.
I was afraid we were going to get into this.
You teased it, my man. You teased it, but something surrounding Mother's Day. That's all I know.
That's it. That's all I can say is
we got 10 more minutes. You got to do better than that.
I probably need to announce it, but I really was not wanting to get that out there right now. It's a project I've been working on for quite a while, and really excited about that. And so you just have to keep watching. And but it is a resource for parents. And so taking everything that I've learned in my journey of trying to help people stand firm, remain faithful, which I've been on. It's pushing like 10 years now of focusing in on that. And a lot of it's been just saying, hey, this is going on. People are leaving the faith. And the number one group leaving the faith is Christian kids who are raised in church and leaving the faith. And so really have looked at how can we take what we've learned and really kind of reverse engineer parenting and look at with the end in mind, and then help families have a faith that lasts from there. And so it's a project aimed at parents, taking what we've learned for parents. And I've never wanted to tackle anything parent related, because I feel like such a hypocrite, because I'm in that battle myself. I just, and we had an article go out today. It actually went out a day earlier from Stand Firm. So every Thursday we drop a Stand Firm Parents blog post, and this one was called "Parents Do the Little Things," and I think it's something like that. But anyway, it was about just focusing on the small things and letting the Lord use that, and how that will work in big ways. But in it, I started out talking about that I have an unofficial minor in marriage and family. And I, at one point, had that dream of being like that, being a James Dobson. And then I became a pastor, and I did my first marital counseling. And I said, nope, this is not where I need to be. And so I've really tried to stay out of that direct ministry. But I just feel like able to bring a unique perspective to parenting. And so it's a project we've been working on, super excited. And so that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to tease that. And so next time we can talk about what that is as it gets unveiled.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll make something new up. I have seen you post from time to time, and I wanted to discuss it with you because you post an alarming statistic. Something, fix this for me if I misstate it, which I will. 75% of young people when they get off to college leave the church. And I'll be honest with you, Jake, that did not alarm me. Okay, I did.
Yeah.
And we have more people going to college than in the past, and I don't want it. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm saying that doesn't alarm me. What would alarm me is if it didn't come back.
Yeah, and statistically, they're not. They're not coming back now. And I mean, this goes. I first ran across this in 2001. It was a Lifeway study that said at that time, I think it was 70% of children raised, and of course, this was a Southern Baptist study, so raised in Southern Baptist churches, 70% by age 18 or 22 were gone, and then they were said at that time they weren't coming back. Powerful book out there called Already Gone by Ken Ham. We think Ken Ham, we think about, Answers in Genesis.
Well, when we think about Ken Ham, Answers in Genesis, so that's where we'll leave it, and I'm going to leave it up to Jake to probably try to reconnect. It seems like this happened last time, didn't it? But I assume Jake is going to give us some longitudinal data over time, and it would concern me greatly if they don't come back. And I'm reminded of that verse that tells us, to raise our children up in the way. Okay, so where we left off, Jake, I tried to make a bookmark. Now, you got to turn the mic back to get it out of podcast mode. Okay. No, we don't hear you, Jake. Jake, we don't hear you, sir. You got to do something on the mic thing. Remember that? It's native podcast mode. You had to hit a button or something on your end. There we go.
Okay, so
whatever we missed was profound. Would you mind repeating it?
I know last thing I remember was talking about a book by Ken Ham called Already Gone, and it was written in 2008, and it is horrifying. It's the worst case scenario, and he walks through what happened in Europe, and that was his argument. They're not coming back. I've seen newer studies that don't say as many people leaving, and it's all varied in how you see that. And I totally get it. I mean, I think a lot of folks have that story of going away, raised in church, get away and, have children and come back. But the whole dynamic of family and all that stuff has changed. And that's really, I'm curious to see how, post-COVID is going to impact things and impact that. And I know we're far away from seeing the numbers of that, but it's a really startling thing. And I've had people say, well, the statistics, it's not as bad as it seems, Jake, statistically. But then I know what I've seen is in student ministry myself as a pastor, that we really embrace the next generation. And, what I've just the eye test, and the eye test to me is even worse because, I mean, it's been few that has carried on in their faith past, the high school year, past driving on their own time, moving forward. And it's a thing that doesn't have to happen. And I think a lot of it just shows, the value we place on faith. And so, it's not something that's going to be solved because Scripture says this happens. There's four types of soil. There's the wheat and tares. I mean, this is going to happen. Matthew 24:10, many will turn away, but we wouldn't have warnings if there wasn't something that you could do to at least limit the amount of faith casualties. And so I really think that's been my heart is, how are some ways that we can just minimize as much as possible, put some of these warnings out, because ultimately when somebody who has made a profession of faith, who have walked in the way of the Lord, steps away, it's not just, that's just, in a fad or over a fad, or, they're just taking a break. The Scripture talks about that being apostasy. And it's could be a lot more serious than we make it out to be.
Strong words. So if I were trying to address that issue, and the statistics that you mentioned, and apparently we've got longitudinal data. This is not just something that was just observed. It's okay. So there's two things to look at. One is you could go talk to the 75% that left. Okay, I don't know how productive that would be because they would offer. I don't know how sincere and genuine responses you would get if you could, even if you could sample them. I think what would be very productive is to let's find out why did the 25% stay.
Yeah, that's very good. I wish I had it before me. There was a graphic floating around just about a month ago. I know it's shared over at on my Facebook page, Stand Firm Jake, and but it had about 6 things that they have found in those who have continued in their faith. I can't remember them all, but 2 things that really stuck out to me. One was, of course, getting involved in ministry early teenage years. Actually doing ministry, being on mission. But the other one, and this is something that as a church that we've taken to heart, and we've trying to reshape how we do children and youth ministry by, is the amount of adult believers in a child's life. I mean, the family matters immensely, but the statistics are it's unbelievable. I wish I had them before me. The difference that 1 or 2 other relationships with adult believers makes in a child's life. And actually, several years ago, my youth pastor came to me as I was pastoring and said he ran across this study he had, and he's like, Jake, we need to get, and it actually went higher the older, this is so biblical, right? Older generation pouring into the younger generation, but the older an adult was that had a relationship of faith, and so he came to me and says, I want to do these mixers between our senior adults and our teenagers, and I'm thinking this is a terrible idea. This is going to be horrible, and began to do that, and it was very awkward at first, but it was very cool. But that was the pursuit, is trying to find ways, how can we plug them in, not just to a youth pastor, not just to a Sunday school teacher, but how can we plug them into another adult of faith that cares, that can pour into them, which is all biblical, right? I mean, this is what Timothy is told by Paul, and Titus is told, let the older generation pour into the younger generation, and there's staying power there.
Well, I think you're onto something, because I don't have an observation. It's more of a comment, but it's based on observation. And assuming my critical role of church culture, there's been a lot of resources directed in churches into youth ministry. We hire these people and pay them and staff it, and we take it serious, and that youth minister gets out and really does a great job. And okay, so you start attracting the youth, but you're not attracting the parents.
Yes.
And too often the parents drop the youth off.
Yeah.
And so if that is a pervasive model, if that observation has any real basis in fact, well, is it any wonder that their faith is weak, and then when they get off to college and now they're drinking age and the hormones are racing, and is it any surprise?
Right. And one of the best things I have seen, and this project I'm talking about, this something I go into, is we don't give them a big enough story of Christianity. One of the reasons that I've written Jesus and the White Horse, and we're writing in time book for kids, is to make the story of Christianity bigger, but we don't express it and show it as being as big as it is. And I think and I've heard some feedback and some of the things that I've spoke at with teenagers. We just don't make the story big enough. That's, to me, is the biggest thing that I've come across, as how can we make Christianity worth our lives? How can we express that? But I have come across 2 ministries that were working with people who had left the faith. One was an author out of Portland named David Sanford. He wrote a book in 2009 called If God Disappears, where he interviewed, mostly these were adults he interviewed, but he had a ministry of just visiting folks who had walked away. Right. And the thing he found is, if you let someone just share their heart, it was typically something they went through in life. This is maybe more the adult aspect of it. and they just hadn't got a chance to reconcile that with faith. And he said, if you'll just let them tell their story, a lot of times the Holy Spirit will work in that. So I had the chance to work with him and talk with him quite a bit about that. And then I came across another ministry out of Philadelphia called Reimagine Faith. And they were working with 18, 20-year-olds. And they just created a space where they could come in and ask questions, whatever it was, and not be ashamed. And what they were finding was a lot of the times students they could not reconcile politics and faith. They hear one thing at church, see another thing on the news. They couldn't reconcile, science and faith. And they just felt like they couldn't bring it up. It was just this aspect of, you can't question, you can't. And they said if we gave them space to ask, a safe space to ask these questions, typically that was all it was. It wasn't a hang up, a hang up of just being mad about the faith or just angry or just desiring to leave. It was that questioning. Now, I think what you've mentioned, though, the biggest thing is, I think the larger part of, that age group leaving is it just kind of like fades away in the sunset. You just get doing other stuff and that just kind of fades. And, I think that's bigger. But for those who still had an interest in faith, one of the things that they found is just reconciling that with life is hard. And Barna released like the 6 reasons people leave. I know 1 or 2 somewhere in there was that both were along these lines of just not being able to question, not being able to reconcile these two. And so I think that's something again, and that goes back still to make Christianity bigger. I like to say God's got broad shoulders. He can handle our questioning. He can handle our struggle. And I think in church a lot of times we make God out to be feeble, that he can't handle, our struggle and our wrestling with these things.
Well, if what you're saying is the case, I think of that more as an indictment of failure of the church than as failure of the one that left. If that is correct.
No, it's a failure of our generation. I mean, it's a failure of the generation imparting to the next generation, ultimately. And I mean, I think it's because you don't see this in other countries, and here goes Jake, always go back to the persecuted church and those things. But you don't see this in past history. You don't see this in the persecuted countries. Where do you see this? You saw this in Europe. You see this in America. You see this in Australia. I mean, you see this in developed countries where there's a lot of other things to do, where there's not much cost to the faith, where it's, we live out our faith in ease. And, we're so thankful for that and proud of that. But it really makes it hard to see the value of faith. And I think that's a lot what we're missing. And it's Ken Ham in his book Already Gone has a statement that just horrifies me. They did this major study, and in that study they concluded children who went to Sunday school were worse off than those who didn't. And it just, that blew me away. And I know I opened a can when we need to close down, but at the same time, that is what it was going. And it went back to, again, just kind of glossing it over, making small Christianity and not really combining life with the faith. Of course, Ken Ham's goes back to, evolution and those things. They're hearing one thing in school all this amount of time and just this little sliver there in Sunday school. And that just really, as somebody who loves church, who loves, has spent their life doing that, that was a huge blow to me.
I'm blown away. That is, as you said, horrifying. And I can't relate to it because I was taught to defend creationism. It wasn't like we had apologetics courses in the
Right.
8th grade, but yeah, we did. That we would be able to offer. They couldn't mop the floor with me. And oh gosh, oh yeah, can of worms. Sorry. Well, Jake, we anticipate hearing something really exciting by the time we see you next time, assuming that you don't have some new. Well, no, baseball season will be over by then, right?
So we're meeting Wednesday. We don't play on Wednesday nights, so we're on Wednesday next week, next month, and so we'll get. But yeah, one more month of
And
ball
it was
season.
only
Hopefully
because
we
of a
get
rain delay. In other words,
it.
it was okay until the rain washed out a game, and then they had to
Yes,
reschedule it, and
yes,
then
that's
that
right. That's right.
they
Well,
didn't.
that's
They
true, but
no one
it's
consulted me on that, you know. But anyway,
that's right.
all right. Well, Jake, as disturbing as some of the things that you have said are, thank you for sharing them. And
Yes, thank you.
it is something to take as a matter of prayer because we're in a battle, and ultimately we win. But in the
Yes.
meantime, we need to fight and fight hard. And well, we need to run the score up. And Jake, with your help, we'll do just that.
Yeah. We need a larger team.
There you and make it big. All right, my man. Thank you, Jake McCandless, here on PJNet.tv. Wow, I'm going to have to be in prayer. That is some disturbing realities, but thank goodness for people like Jake out on the front lines. I think of Doug Carter as the watchman on the wall, when he is able to appear and he's in our chat room. But I think Jake has issued a clarion call to challenge us. Well, I'm going to challenge you. It's a challenge I take personally, and it's helped me. So hopefully it'll help you. Ask yourself these two questions. What is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And second question is, how long ago was that? Challenge yourself to never be satisfied with either answer.